Here with us today is Jennifer Kent, writer and director of new Australian horror film, The Babadook. Jennifer, The Babadook was actually born from a short film you did called The Monster. The Monster's really different in tone. How did you progress it from that almost playful tone to something that's quite a bit darker?
Yeah, well, I didn't intend to write The Babadook when I made Monster at all. I wasn't thinking, oh, I want to make this into a feature film. It was just the idea at the core of my short really stuck with me. This idea of, you know, the importance of facing your dark side, facing your shadow side. And so I was working on a number of films after my short, and I couldn't I couldn't get them made basically, and so I kept coming back to this idea, and then eventually, years later, I started writing a film about it. This idea of facing your dark side, I guess. So yeah, it's a much more complex story, obviously being a feature, but it is a lot darker, I'd say.
What made you think of Kickstarter as a method of funding the film?
We'd fortunately already been funded by Screen Australia and the South Australian Film Corporation. So we had a small but tidy package of money to make the film, but we didn't have enough for our design department. And there's a real world to this film, and we knew that we needed to create it. So we thought we'd put it out there and see what support we could get back. And the support was phenomenal. And it also generated a really strong fan base for us and people that felt involved. And that was really important for us. And we've kept them informed, and they came to our premieres all around Australia. So yeah, it's been a really positive experience for us.
I did notice, however, that you only just made your funding goal. Did you have a plan B if that had fallen through?
No. We did not have a plan B, and I was on set directing, and then I'd go off and I'd be checking my phone and thinking, oh no, will we make it? And it was really touch and go. But I think that people just pulled out all stops at the 11th hour, and we had extraordinary support from really quite high profile people. Miriam Margolyes and Tom Stoppard, and just incredible people. So they brought a lot of publicity to our campaign.
You seem to just not care about the tropes at all. For example, you've got a film with a parent and a child, and normally the child is the creepy one. You flip that on its head. And interestingly, for an Australian film, it's all set inside a house, whereas Australian horror is typically located in wide open spaces.
As a filmmaker, I really can only do something that I feel very drawn to. So there wasn't a sense of thinking, oh, I should make a film like this, or I should make a film like that. It was very much going from that core idea of facing your dark side. And I guess I love horror. I've loved horror since I was a kid. So I know all those tropes very well, but I certainly didn't feel reined in by them. I didn't feel like I had to be a good horror filmmaker and make a film that horror fans would like. With all due respect to them, I really didn't care. I just needed to tell this story in the best way possible. So yeah, maybe that's what makes it a little bit different to some of the other horror out there.
I really love the characters of Amelia and Sam, and I found it interesting that the biggest fear that the film seemed to speak to was a maternal one, which is, what if I can't stand my own child? How did that become the story you wanted to tell?
Well, it's interesting, because when I started to write this, I was Googling women who hate their children or women who can't love their children. And it was very telling to me that I could find nothing. But, so people think that that's not a reality, that, we would all like to think that every mother comes into the world with this innate sense of love for their offspring. But it's disturbingly common for women to struggle with that. And I've also seen every woman that I know, I don't have children, but I've seen every woman that I know say, I wish I was a better mother, and feel like they're not a good mother, even if they're extraordinary mothers. So I really wanted to touch on that. I really wanted to be honest about mother love and the shadow side of that. And it's had a wonderful response from women who felt this collective sigh of relief. Oh, there's others that aren't perfect out there as well. And I think that's one of the really important things about the film, actually.
Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, welcome to the Great Martin's DVD School of Magic. Life is not always as it seems. It can be a wondrous thing, but it can also be very treacherous. In this DVD, you will learn magic tricks to surprise, to delight, and perhaps even shock your family and friends.
So you mentioned that you've always loved horror since you were a little girl. So did you start off wanting to make a horror film, or did you start off wanting to tell a story about a mother?
I think they came together. So I think that the idea came, and the whole point of facing something, you know, and that you can't face and it gets bigger and bigger is terrifying for most people. And to put it in a drama context, in a dramatic context, didn't seem to make sense. And I think it would have become melodramatic, and it wouldn't have reached people and grabbed people the way that it is now. So I think horror allows us as an audience to really enter into a heightened world, and it also allows us to explore myth. And these things really, they may seem unreal on the surface or heightened, but the emotions running through them are very real. And I guess horror is a gift in that way, to tell this kind of story.